Hey people, welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm the human debt ceiling, Dave Rubin. I've got Cathy Ladman and Jimmy Dore with me, and we have amazing breaking news right this very second. It looks like a deal has been struck. America is not going to go into default, at least today, probably in about a month. That's going to be my general prediction. So, all right, we're alive, we're okay. Here we go. An interesting poll came out by Rasmussen that half of Americans basically believe that the Founding Fathers would be disappointed in the way America has turned out. Let's look at some numbers. 34% of Americans believe if the Founding Fathers came back today, they'd view America as a success. That's a pretty low number. 49% say the Founding Fathers would view the present-day U.S. as a failure. 51% of Democrats say failure. 62% of Republicans say failure. And 17% say they aren't sure. Those numbers seem pretty legit to me. I think the Founding Fathers would be rolling in their graves right now if they saw what was going on. America, are we a failure in the eyes of the Founding Fathers?
I mean, who knows? You look at what they had. I mean, they didn't have plumbing.
So plumbing, they'd feel
good. You know, the plumbing is good.
Yeah.
But some of the other stuff really sucks.
Yeah.
Jefferson was a good shitter, from what I understand.
He was? Oh, is that documented?
That's just what I've understand, yeah.
But he had people that were taking it out.
Yeah,
now we
had,
have a system
from the chamber
of
pot.
tubes.
From
yes.
the chamber pot.
He had a seat warmer boy.
That?
He had that going on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Who needs that? I can't. I need a door closed and a fan on.
Me, I need 2 doors closed.
Oh, why are we talking about this?
Wow, we're
already.
But it's funny to
this
see
is a pure continuation of where we were at before the show
yes,
started.
the Republicans, that statistic, it said the Republicans, what was it, 64%?
62% of Republicans.
Which is interesting, right? Because they're always angry at people if they don't love America. Oh, Barack Obama's not proud of America. Why aren't you proud? It turns out more of them aren't proud of America than anybody. And usually, the Republicans usually love this country. And why shouldn't they? They pay full price.
Yeah.
The point is, but so isn't that kind of interesting that they're the ones who
well, but they can say that now because
there's a black president.
They hate Obama so much.
Right?
God.
Wouldn't they also say it because, well, not only is their guy not in charge, but they feel that liberty has
been taken,
destroyed. Especially look at these last 2 weeks. It's all about liberty for them and health care. Somehow, poor people getting health care is affecting.
Oh, and it's
and
also on the heels of gay marriage and all these things that just make them broil and boil and roil. You know, they're just so furious. At all this movement forward.
So speaking of gay marriage, so certain things that the Founding Fathers would have never imagined, like gay rights and equality for women and for black
medical
people,
marijuana,
things like that. Would they be? You think they'd be happy about that if they were able to really think it through? Because they wanted liberty, individual liberty. So even though it didn't happen in their time, do you think things like equality for gay people, those type of things, would make them proud?
I think yes. I think if you deconstruct the documents that were written, they really echo what's going on in those areas, and I think those men, because they were all men, would look at it and maybe initially would be like, wow, what the hell's going on here? But they would look at it and say, yeah, this is progress. This is what we've written for. If you take what we've written and you move it forward, 200 some odd years, this is where we've arrived.
If you take I'm sure they would be upset with the convergence of religion and politics.
Definitely.
Especially Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Jefferson Bible, which got rid of all the stupid shit that screws up religion.
Right.
So yes, I would think that they would be horrified at what's happened. And I think they would also be horrified at the corporate money takeover of politics. I think they would be against that. They could not envision the Koch brothers being able. They didn't envision televisions and so they didn't understand how you can control the message just with money. And right now, the idea that money equals free speech. Well, some people have more money, so it's not really free, is it?
Right. So that's a perfect segue to my next thing, because I want to know, what do you guys think they would think about the Tea Party? Because the Tea Party's whole thing was no taxation without representation, which goes to the money issue. They obviously believed in that, but I don't really think they would buy into a lot of the Tea Party stuff now, would they?
I can't see it. These people are just like, they're so wacko and they're so completely off the charts and they're so against everything else that is freedom oriented. I mean, I just can't see how they would appreciate that. Am I naive?
Why don't some ancestors of the Tea Party sue for the name back? Aren't they giving them a bad rep?
This was about actual tea.
Literally.
In water.
In water.
and dressing up and blaming it on the Indians. The point is,
but let's not. Come on.
Let's forget
That's
that
too
part.
Much to,
Let's forget about that kind of horrible history of the Tea Party. What do I think the Founding Fathers would think of the Tea Party?
Yeah.
Is that they would think that they're crazy extremists, that they're not about liberty. They're about small-minded, narrow goals that have anything to do with liberty. And it just goes to show you, Dana Gould made this point one time. He talks about how they say they're all about the Second Amendment, and if you got to have the Second Amendment, because when the government comes to take your freedom, you're going to have your gun to defend you.
Right.
Well, the government has already taken away all their freedoms. They're listening to all their phone calls. They're reading their emails. They've taken away now they can give them indefinite detention. So they've taken away all their liberty, and they don't give a shit. They just want their guns still. So they just want their guns. They don't care about liberty.
Right. So to everything you just said, though, the founding fathers would not be that happy with Obama.
No.
Right?
They would be. I think they would be horrified.
By the whole thing.
They knew the tyranny of governments. They knew the tyranny of dictators. That's why they wrote the Constitution the way they did.
But tell me, wasn't a lot of it about religion initially?
A lot of the Constitution?
A lot of the reason that our country was formed. Wasn't a lot of it about
Well, it was about
they
got kicked. Well, the Pilgrims were so puritanical. They got kicked out of Europe, for Christ's sake. That's how crazy they were.
Right.
So yeah, they came here, and that's where we get this puritanical bullshit work ethic, which leads us to work harder than anybody else in the rest of the world without health care. Right? That's really, we work harder. I mean,
harder than the Chinese.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
You haven't seen the videos from the Apple factories. Those guys are working pretty hard.
I guess it's over an average. You know, I'm guessing most of the Chinese are rural. They're not working so hard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Final thought on this. What do you think they would think about our sort of Bush-Clinton dynasty? You know what I mean? We've had 2 Bush presidents. We're probably going to have another Clinton. And we left England because we wanted to escape kings and queens. And it's like we're doing it to ourselves right here.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem rather akin to that, but I mean, I guess the big difference here is that they're elected, and they were just, you know, kind of appointed because of their bloodline.
But doesn't it seem like they're sort of appointed? Hillary seems like she's being anointed.
Well,
rather
the thing
than
is,
appointed.
because like I think back to what Jimmy said, it's about having money and being able to kind of stage a campaign where you can get yourself out there. And I'm sure there were many other qualified people who aren't able to get themselves out there and put themselves in a position to be elected.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate.
You know, your point about how they would feel about the Bush. Do you know, 20 out of the last 33 years, a guy named Bush had a key to the front door of the White House.
Yeah.
20 out of the last 33 years. So now we're going to have a Clinton. Again, so yes, this political dynasty is not good for America. I think that's obvious, and I think they would be horrified at that too. I mean, Washington left the presidency after 1 term because he didn't want to have that kind of stuff happening.
Yeah, that's a good
I'm making
finish.
a lot of good points.
And you know what? Support Malia Obama in 2022. That's where this is all heading. So James Woods, Hollywood actor for movies like Contact and Casino. He's done voices in The Simpsons, Family Guy, and a zillion other things. He's taken a sort of hard turn right politically, and he's sharing his thoughts on Twitter, and people are not happy with him. Let's read some of the tweets. This president is a true abomination to have barricaded the World War II vets, but allowing illegal aliens privilege. And then there's a link to a USA article.
Asshole.
I think we got a couple.
Can you actually read that?
I can actually read that from where I'm sitting. I think we got a couple more here. And then. So then people have been writing to him saying, this person said, dude, aren't you worried about, ever working again because Hollywood is such a liberal elitist town? And he wrote, I don't expect to work again. I think Barack Obama is a threat to the integrity and future of the republic. My country first. So just real quick, I do want to tell you that I asked James Woods to be on the show, and he said he'd like to do it, but he only wants to stick to Twitter where he can control the message right now, as opposed to you come here
Did he really
and
say that?
we can edit it and really screw you up.
Oh my God.
I sort of, even though I don't agree with a lot of what he's doing, I sort of respect that he's putting himself out there, and we have so few people in the public sphere that do that. Jimmy, I can sense a headache coming out of you right now.
Well, I mean, I expect someone taking a courageous stand. That's not a courageous stand to side with racists and bullshit and to just sling unsubstantiated crap. The last president we all accept the fact that him and his team lied us into an illegal fucking war. But somehow national health insurance is going to subvert democracy.
Right.
So that's the kind of, it's just like, go away. You're just an idiot. That's what I'm talking about. We have to have an agreed set of facts we deal with. So if you're going to say that, first of all, he didn't close the goddamn memorial. The fucking Republicans closed down the government, and that's part of the goddamn government.
That's right. How can they do that?
But,
and I saw some guy on.
But he's upset about the World War II memorial, but he's not upset about the cancer patients who aren't going to get their trials. He's not upset about the kids on WIC who aren't going to get their formula. He's upset about the World War II museum, which shows what a fucking lightweight he is. James Woods, turns out having all the money in the world doesn't make you a good person.
Right, exactly.
Do you think he's going to be able to work again when you do this in Hollywood? We're all in
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
There are plenty of people.
He'll never work again, just like Mel Gibson.
Right, exactly.
Well, Mel Gibson's up, but he doesn't work that much.
He works.
He does work. You can work. Yeah, you know what? Anytime anybody can make anybody else some money in Hollywood, that person works. And that's
right.
that.
That's
It
right.
doesn't matter. But I have to say, and I don't agree with anything that he said, that when people, and I am so on the other side, but when people have said horrible things about Bush, which I think deservedly so, that's okay. But when somebody says the opposite, and we have to have freedom of speech even for the idiots. Even for the idiots, we have to have freedom of speech. And I remember one time years ago I was in South Carolina doing a gig, and we were going to we were having brunch, and we had to leave soon because they were closing the streets for a Klan march. And I thought, oh, that's terrible. And then I thought, no, this is good. This is good. This should be seen. It needs to be seen. It needs to be out there.
Yeah.
People need to say these things out loud so you can see what they are.
Yes, I agree with that.
And see who they are.
Did you guys know that James Wood is considered one of the most 100 most intelligent people in the United States? He's like a Mensa, top tier person.
Intelligent.
Does that change your opinion?
That just goes to, I know some people in Mensa, and I'm some of the dumbest motherfuckers I've ever met.
Yeah.
That has no correlation with being smart to having a high IQ. To be able to pass that Mensa test, that has nothing to do with anything.
What about William F. Buckley? He was really,
that has
he was
nothing
intelligent,
to do.
but he was politically insane.
And it's just when you say, I admire someone for expressing an informed. That's not an informed opinion. That has nothing to do with the thing he's upset about. Has nothing to do with Barack Obama. It's like there are plenty of reasons to criticize Barack Obama, Dave. That's not what I'm upset about.
Right.
I say horrible things about Barack Obama, but they're accurate.
Right.
They're not made up out of whole cloth, and they don't have an undertone of fucking racism.
Right. Now, granted, that was only one tweet. He has written a lot of stuff about the NSA and all the other stuff that we all don't like. That
the
Obama's
NSA,
doing.
which was started, he should be upset at the Patriot Act, which allowed the NSA to do that shit. So to pretend that this is just Barack, you should criticize Barack Obama, but again, pretending that it's this administration, that it's somehow going to be a threat to the future. Get that, God
and
damn
the Patriot Act was Bush's, right?
Of course, it was Bush's. Democrats and Republicans got on
but
board.
it was during
was
his
the president.
administration.
Yeah.
Wasn't
That's
it everybody except for one congressman or something, or one congresswoman?
Yes.
Something.
I'm sure it was one congresswoman.
Yeah.
Just the name of the Patriot Act pisses me off.
Of course,
it's
it's
so
very
stupid.
that
It's
was
so
the beauty.
jingoistic,
Yeah.
But wasn't that the beauty of the Patriot Act? If you're not a patriot,
then get the hell out.
Yeah. Do we owe this guy any credit whatsoever? Because at least he's not going to the other main things, the anti-women stuff and the anti-gay stuff. He's at least going to the policy stuff, even if we don't agree with it.
For him to say that about the World War II memorial,
I know that's bullshit.
Just exposes him to be uninformed. It exposes him to be a
lemming.
Yeah, a lemming.
Right.
He's about as smart as Sarah Palin in this instance.
Yeah.
And so you just dismiss him.
But didn't the administration decide that they were going to be the ones that were going to actually blockade the thing and lock it? Isn't that?
Pretty sure the government shut down.
Right, but I think
all the parks in every state are closed.
Yeah.
Everything is closed. Government, all the
national memorials,
all the museums
monuments
are closed. Everything's closed.
Well, they'll be open in about 2 hours, from now, so we'll be all right.
But can I say, on the heels of that, I saw some report on TV where some guy was complaining that that some guard wasn't letting him into the World War II memorial, and I hate flag pins. I hate flag pins.
Then you're anti-American.
First of all, fuck you. I don't care. they've become meaningless because everybody wears a flag pin because what if they see me not wearing a flag pin? So they become meaningless anyway. So, but this guy was wearing a flag, like a flag that waved in his pocket. It was about that.
Oh, he had a legit flag.
Yes,
wow, that's a true American.
It was hilarious.
That's funny.
It was like cartoonish.
Well, I refer to the people who wear the flag lapel pins. That's like an asshole detector.
Right.
It's like
Yes.
I can tell you're still an asshole. And it's the guy you're trying too much. Like if I was an enemy of the United States and I didn't want anybody to know it, the first thing I would do is put that
Flag
thing.
pin. Who was it that was running for president that didn't want to wear the pin and everybody was it Ron Paul? One of these guys didn't
I don't
want.
think it was Ron.
I don't know.
Who? It was
Obama.
It was President Obama. You
But
see?
now he wears the flag.
Now he
pin.
wears it.
Now he wears the pin.
But now he wears it.
All right.
That's upsetting.
Let's move from the zombies of politics to the actual zombies that we all like. The Walking Dead returned this week to bonkers ratings. But before we get into that, if you haven't watched, let's look at some zombies.
They just stand there.
Okay, maybe I should have given some sort of parental warning there or something. I'm not sure.
You know,
anyway,
can I just say what upsets me the most about that clip is I went up for one of those. And I can't believe that woman was cast. I can't believe it.
It was connections. She knew somebody at the studio. Anyway, The Walking Dead came back, the premiere outrated Sunday Night Football, which is completely crazy. Yeah, let's look at some of the ratings.
No!
I'm kind of
So
glad.
the season 1 premiere had 5.4 million, season 2 7.3, season 3 10.9, and season 4 16.1.
Wow.
I mean, if any network show got 16.1 million viewers, they would be absolutely thrilled.
And what is what would a normal hit show get on a network, do you think? I have no idea.
I mean, if you get 10 million now on a network show, you're in pretty good shape. I think Big Bang Theory is the #1 comedy. It gets probably like 20 million, something like that. So, I mean, 16.1 is huge.
Wow.
16.1, it's like a third of the audience that All in the Family used to get. So it's a huge hit nowadays.
Isn't that something? Well, there was only so many things
Yes,
you
there
could
was
watch
only 3 channels back then.
Right.
Yeah. So now,
Yeah. Does this just show you how television's changing and that these other channels like AMC are actually just making better stuff than, in our old school minds? We keep thinking that CBS, ABC, and Fox are going to make all the good stuff.
Well, I think when you open up a marketplace, generally you get more competition and people, kind of rise to the top, or some do anyway. I mean, I love the stuff that's on cable, and I don't have time to watch everything that I want to watch. I was watching The Walking Dead for a while, and I was so into it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, at one point, like I imagine it might happen with porn, I just went, I've had enough. And it was just like, again, the zombies, they're getting stabbed and there's blood coming out and then people are eating each other. I mean, it's just, I guess the storylines and the characters stopped grabbing me, but apparently they're grabbing a lot of people.
Those zombies, they just they're lining up on purpose to get slaughtered. It's like, so does being a zombie also lower your IQ a couple of points? You can't see
your brain is affected, and you just keep walking to the food.
Right.
You just want to feed.
And is that it?
Yeah, you just want to eat.
Maybe it's a metaphor, though. It's a metaphor
for the Tea Party, I think.
Well, yes, for a lot of the public, I think that you just kind of keep walking towards the disaster, even though it's inevitable.
Ooh, I like that. What does it say that it's outrating football, though?
That's amazing.
I mean, our national pastime.
I think that's great.
You think that's something?
I have never been a football fan.
Yeah.
I've just never grasped the game. I love baseball. I really like basketball. I'm not a football fan, and I'm not a fan of the fans of football. I think that's really what does it for me.
That's funny.
And I'm just tired of people thronging to it. And a lot of people I like and love really like football.
Yeah.
But
You
just
don't
doesn't
like
do it
those
for me,
kind
and
of
I like
zombies.
that something's superseding it. I really like that.
Wow, that is something.
Is The Walking Dead the best commercial that the NRA could ever have? Because in that world, you need a gun. And every time I'm watching that, I'm thinking, this is sort of why I believe guns should be legal, because I have far more belief that we're going to have a zombie invasion or an alien invasion than that the government is going to come get me. Are you buying my crazy?
You believe
I
that
think a zombie invasion is more likely than the government coming together.
Tell me how you arrived
with
at
all
that.
the, all these pesticides, all these the things we're eating. Some
so you think
biological,
it'll make undead?
Yeah, sort of like I Am Legend kind of stuff. And I'm going to need a gun to save myself. Crazy?
You know what? If things get that bad, the way they are in that show, I don't want to be around because my whole day is getting up and killing zombies. I just don't want it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, like another day of this. Where's the life quality? I mean,
I'm with you.
Jimmy, isn't it though? Wouldn't you? The NRA, they should be using this and saying, "Look, zombie apocalypse."
Dave, I don't think you're making a serious point. So.
The alien invasion.
What about the alien invasion? We're going to need weapons if some shit goes down.
No, I think I actually go the other way. I actually think we have a bigger chance of the government coming and taking us away, especially now with they can put you in jail without any charges forever. They did it already. They've tortured our own soldier, Chelsea Manning, right, for a year. Tortured him. President knew about it. Didn't give a shit. And so I'd be more afraid of the government than of zombies.
What if the government calls you in for an email and then they just correct the punctuation?
They're like, Jimmy, you're the only one still using salutations in an email. No one uses salutation. I still do. I still use most.
Salutations.
I try to say hello to the person.
I do
emails
too.
are very professional.
And then I try to say thanks and my name at the bottom.
I do as well.
You wrote me an email yesterday and you wrote XO at the end. Like hug and kiss.
Okay. Well, sometimes it has a special meaning.
He saves it for certain people, but
I don't know.
Now.
I thought it was a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
It was a bit much. All right, let's move on to zombies of another kind. McDonald's, they are taking the toys out of Happy Meals. That's right, they're putting books in Happy Meals. That sounds like the worst thing I can possibly imagine.
They're making them unhappy meals.
They're making them truly unhappy meals. For a limited time, McDonald's will distribute 20 million self-published print books and Happy Meals to coincide with National Family Literacy Day. Also doesn't sound like a great day. Let's take a look at the McDonald's press release. McDonald's will offer books in print for Happy Meal customers, providing more than 20 million books to families across the U.S. Throughout the 2-week Happy Meal books offer, families will be able to enjoy 4 original books featuring McDonald's Happy Meal characters.
Well, there you go.
Of course.
Yeah.
Each limited edition book brings nutrition, imagination, and play to life in a fun way. So yes, these are books that were made by their PR company, really to push their stuff. This is just like the worst kind of. They're trying to pretend this is about making kids read,
it's
and it's
disgusting.
Yeah, you're a mother. What do you think about this?
It disgusts me. Well, I haven't eaten at McDonald's in years, and Milan does not eat at McDonald's. My daughter does not eat at McDonald's either. And in fact, we taught her when she was little to say that George Bush and Ronald McDonald kill people.
But can she read? How else will she learn to read if not through McDonald's?
You know what they should, instead of changing the prize that goes along with the meal, change the meal. Get rid of the fucking poisons and the pink slime and whatever else they're using in their food. I think it's disgusting that they lure kids in and parents become susceptible to this, and just to shut their kids up and to save some time, take them to this place. It's horrible. Yeah. It's horrible for them.
But isn't this the reverse lure then? Because you're taking the toy away and now putting a book.
Yeah, but you're putting a book that has toy characters in it.
Yeah.
So it basically is placating. It's placating somebody out there, and then they're introducing the characters in a different way so that the characters will come back and the kids will be familiar with the characters and want more of the characters.
Right. So would you be more okay with it if these were legit books, not made by McDonald's, PR company?
Yeah, I mean, I think a kid would enjoy opening up a Happy Meal and thumbing through War and Peace, or maybe The Light in the Forest, or something. Yeah, maybe Catcher in the Rye, get a kid ready for the word fuck, stuff like that.
That would work for you?
Yeah, I think so.
But it's the point is the food, though.
Yeah,
that's the food.
So we're all agreed that the food is just awful. But how do you stop it? How do you stop sending kids to these places? Whether they're getting toys or books, the food is awful either way, and everyone knows it. You don't think
I don't think the food is so horrible.
Have you seen the pink slime videos?
Yeah, but they don't. From what I understand, is that they don't put that in their hamburgers anymore.
But now it's out for the last couple months. Yeah.
The problem is, the way we treat, beef and cattle. I mean, that's the real problem. I think, you get a ham sandwich or a cheeseburger. I think they're pretty much the same thing, right? On white bread, that's not good for you.
And all the buns have a lot of sugar in them.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they produce things, and they're mass-produced. They do it in a cheap, cost-efficient way.
Right.
Fried things, a lot of fried things.
Yes.
On the menu.
And the McNuggets which have ingredients in them in the United States that are illegal in Europe.
Yeah, that are partly used to make yoga mats. Also.
Yes.
Literally.
Wow.
Yes. Literally.
Yeah. So they have
That's
non-food
wild.
stuffs in their food, and a judge referred to it as Frankenfood.
Yeah.
So I don't go for the chicken nuggets, but I don't know. I mean, if you take your kid and give them a Happy Meal every day, that's not good. Who's feeding their kids like that? So
A lot of people.
But people do. It's a socioeconomic
A lot of people.
thing,
Look
right?
at the obesity amongst kids. Oh God, it's so sad.
And now that we have Obamacare, shouldn't we be more concerned about everyone's health? Because now we're all paying in together, right?
Well, you know what? Yes, I agree.
Yes.
We were, by the way, all paying in before.
We were. People were going to the emergency
Yes.
room, and it costs a lot more. But it seems like we're all going to be in it a little bit more now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It certainly does. I saw Super Size Me. Did you see it?
I did.
haven't seen that, and I heard it was really pretty
So
good.
yeah, I mean, that's a guy who ate 3 meals a day at McDonald's. I mean, you're not supposed to do that, So if you had cornflakes 3 times a day, I'm sure they would have some shitty.
But you had if you
Right.
have healthy food 3 times a day.
Yeah.
If you had vegetables and salad and grains
Yeah.
and protein and that 3 times a day would be great.
Right, but isn't it just about money? We talk about this on the
Yes,
show all the
it
time.
is.
It's just about money and
It's
access
hard
and
to-
education and all that
It's
stuff.
hard to prepare healthy. I don't cook anymore. I mean,
What do you eat?
Tom is a really good cook.
Oh,
but
your
when
husband
But when
cooks.
he doesn't cook, I mean, I scramble. I mean, I used to cook, and I say to Tom, I said, I know I used to cook. I lived alone until my late 30s. I know I used to cook, and but I forgot. I mean, I really forgot how, and now I have a very thin repertoire. My specialty is cheese.
Oh, do you still eat meat and stuff?
I do. I haven't eaten beef in a long time.
Yeah.
I eat chicken and I eat chicken, turkey, and fish.
Okay.
And I know that's not certainly
Right.
a perfect
That's
way.
something.
But
That's something.
Yeah,
I
but-
can't stop eating sushi. I have to keep eating, and crab. I like crabs.
You have crabs.
Yeah, I
from
have
what
crabs.
From what I understand.
Yeah.
All right, so eat some chicken, turkey,
Wow,
and
XO.
fish, and try reading a real book and see what happens. Okay, let's move on. So this is wild. Charity Navigator, which is a website for determining which charities operate the most effectively, they've come out with an annual study of CEO pay where they ranked people, and it's a long list, but 11 charities pay their CEOs over $1 million, and we picked a couple of them here, 5. Let's take a look. So these are charities that pay their CEOs and their leaders
American
more than
University
$1 million
is
a
a
year.
charity?
So American University, it's their foundation wing.
okay.
Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Heritage Foundation, that's your buddy, what's his name?
Jim
Santorum?
DeMint.
Yeah. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Boys and Girls Club of America.
Really?
Yeah.
that last
Really?
one. I've been to boys and girls clubs.
Okay.
They're horrible. They are so
All right, bring
so
it.
spare. I mean, it's a great service where you can have a place for your kids to come basically for free and play and be and have be in a good surroundings. But they're not pretty. They're not dirty, but they're not pretty.
Really?
And what's served to them in the forms of snacks are not great.
Right.
And for that charity,
So the CEO there is making over $1 million. Just
I think that's disproportionate.
Yeah, so the median CEO salary for all the ones that Charity Navigator looked at was about $126,000. For large charities that had more than $13.5 million in annual expenses, the median pay was $244,000. But this seems completely crazy, right? Now, I think what they would argue is they need the best of the best.
That's what they would argue.
That's what they would argue, and that otherwise you get this brain drain because if you don't pay the CEOs enough, you're not going to get the right people in that can make it as good of an
I
organization.
think that's what Mother Teresa used to say.
That's right. I'd love to do the
Right.
work, but
But I
come back
need
to
a-
me with
You gotta
another
pay
offer.
me. You gotta pay me.
So
Yeah.
is the brain drain argument? You just don't buy that at any level whatsoever.
Not for charity. No, you go to work for a charity because there's lots of committed people. That's all bullshit. That's about people wanting more money.
Yeah.
And being greedy. Taking $1 million from a fucking charity.
Right.
That is so that's $20,000 a week, right? 27. Yeah, that's $20,000 a
Wow,
week.
it is?
Yes.
That's
A week. So that's $5,000 a day.
Right.
Jesus.
Right. That's more than Cenk makes.
Whoa!
Well, you know,
Steve-O like that one.
you know, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I guess I expect someone who works for a charity to have some amount of altruism.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at this level, but also, yeah, you know, what is too much?
Exactly.
I mean, it really depends on what your perspective is. I mean, like I could say, yeah, I think that if they make like $250,000 a year, I think that's a fair amount. But like, who am I to say that?
I think I think you're just as qualified as anyone else to say that. I would say that. I would say that, hey, we'll give you a salary that puts you in the upper 2%. Is that enough?
Right. Is that enough? So that's the question. Would these people that are doing this for over $1 million not do it for $500,000?
Right, exactly.
Which I would be pretty happy.
Fuck the Boys and Girls Clubs. That $500,000?
Yeah, I'm going back. I'm going back to Wall
I'm going
Street.
to work for tobacco.
That's right.
Yeah. So can we just not play on the goodness of people? Is that where does that
See,
exist?
but then also look at what people in the movies make. I mean, like, is that fair for somebody to make $20 million for a movie?
No, but for them, they're at least saying they do it for themselves, right? There's no illusion that they're somehow doing it for the betterment of society.
Right.
Well, I guess a lot of actors probably think they're doing it for the betterment
what would
of society. Right.
What would society be without Judge Dredd?
Just awful.
Yeah, that's bullshit. When I hear about that, it's a scam. $1 million that people donate go to your own pocket. That's wrong.
Well, so the definition of charity, I thought this was interesting, is the voluntary giving of help, typically in the form of money, to those in need. So actually, by giving these people salaries that are $1 million, you're actually going against the very definition
of charity
of the word. So what do we do? Do we just not give money to these? I mean, those organizations are doing some good stuff. Maybe not the Heritage Foundation.
When I get hired to do a charity event, I usually donate the money back to the charity. Yeah. You know, that's as a performer, right?
What kind of communist left-wing radical?
So I said usually.
Not all the time. Not the big ones.
Not if it's a big check.
Not the big ones. But would this affect how you gave if you saw this full list?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would not want to give to these particular charities. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't give to the Heritage Foundation anyway.
Right.
But I mean, the Boys and Girls Club is something that I think is a great service. But I would want them to know. I would want them to know that I'm not giving because of this information.
Yeah. Is part of the problem also that people think that these not-for-profit companies, that they're all altruistic, but you can be not-for-profit and make a ton of money. Right, your CEOs and all your high-level people can get paid a ton. You're still not for profit.
Medical marijuana clinics.
Yeah,
I think that's how it works. I think they can take a salary, and that they have to be nonprofits technically. I think in California anyway.
So does that mean that aside from just paying salaries, that all the money goes back to the service?
It's not going back in to pay like dividends and things like that.
Right, that's a nonprofit.
Right. Okay.
Well, I guess the point of this was that you should put your money in the medical marijuana companies,
Absolutely.
right? I think that was the takeaway of what Jimmy was trying to say here.
They were helping
people. In fact, forget that, just straight to us.
That's right.
Straight to your local.
So we can buy our pot.
We're trying
to your local comedians. I think that's the way to do it. All right, so one more story, and I thought this would be particularly interesting because I have two comedians who I like and respect here and who are actually funny people, a rarity these days. So a new book is coming out by Johnny Carson's former lawyer, a guy named Henry Bushkin, who was Carson's lawyer from 1970 to 1988, which were many of Johnny's prime years right in there. And he's just bashing Johnny, and of course Johnny's long gone at this point. He's saying he was difficult to work with, a bad husband, a bad father. He always carried a gun. He was unhappy, blah, blah, blah. Now, first off, what happened to attorney-client privilege? Isn't there some sort of
well, I don't
you're not
think
supposed to do that, aren't you?
I don't think that's some of the things that you listed there are not particularly attorney-client privilege.
Right.
The general themes.
Those are just things that he observed from spending, I think, 18 years with Johnny. But
he goes into pretty specific instances.
It's so exploitative. It's so exploitative. I think that's really unethical.
Yeah.
I think it's really unethical.
So what I wanted to talk to you guys about this was just the comedian aspect of this, because comedians were known to be that this comes from a dark place and we're all warped and messed up and all this stuff. Don't we have a right to that? Sort of, if we're gonna make people laugh and talk about the truth and all that stuff, don't we have a right to it? And then that it shouldn't be splashed once we're gone.
Well, go ahead. You want to?
No, I mean, first of all, I have nothing to hide. Anybody wants to write a book about me, like after I'm dead, I'm fine.
Talk to your lawyer.
I really don't care.
Yeah.
But that's one thing when you talk about, you know, us being, you know, dark and that type of personality. But when he's
because don't you think there's sort of this implication that he was this friendly guy that everyone loved?
No, but
and what they're trying to do in the book is be like, but look what he really was.
There was a terrific documentary about Johnny Carson earlier this year,
and
I worked on the show, and I met him, and I conversed with him to a point, and he was not a very social person, and it's not a secret, you know, he was an uncomfortable person, and it said that in the documentary. But I think, and not having read this book, I think that Bushkin goes beyond this. And, you know, when he talks about trying to break into his ex-wife's apartment, I mean, that's illegal. I mean, that's illegal stuff it's completely exploitative.
Right, and also always carrying around a gun and all that. So, I mean, is this just another example of just somebody just trying to make a buck on somebody else's talent,
and
basically?
You know, and I will have to admit that I am glad that his lawyer has such low standards and no ethics, because it's fun to read this stuff. I was really happy to hear that Johnny Carson was even more flawed than I am. And, you know, the fact that he would be... I know that he married 3 women named Joanna, right?
Right.
And but the thing is, when he went to, his wife had taken out a apartment. She was leasing an apartment where she would go and have sexual trysts with her lover, and it turned out her lover was Frank Gifford.
Yep.
Right.
Oh boy, the MVP. The MVP. Your wife is begging the MVP.
No wonder Johnny was pissed.
Yeah. So and then. But there is some funny insights the way he dealt with. So one night he's drinking at a bar, and he calls up Ed McMahon. It was right after he found out his wife was cheating.
Did you read this book?
So I read parts of it. There was excerpts in the paper.
Okay, right.
And so he's sitting there drinking with Ed, and then when the lawyer shows up, he turns to Ed and goes, "We're done here, right, Ed?" And then Ed just gets up and walks away. It was kind of like, oh, hey, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? That's
So okay, so all this stuff is again from 1970 to 1988, before Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. And Johnny clearly had no privacy even then. So should any of us expect, anyone that's even remotely in the public eye at all, should we expect to have any privacy while we're alive or when we're long gone?
It's really up to the ethics of individuals, and there are a lot of people who don't respect other people's privacy, and that's the way it's going to be, and that's why I like to have no secrets, because then nobody can hurt me. So I can tell people about my Propecia use, so it can't be used against me.
Yeah. That's what they'll say about Jimmy when he's long gone. He used.
It wasn't his real hair.
But it is your real hair. It's just through science.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but you were talking about, you know, this revealing what a dark side Johnny Carson had, and, you know, somehow comedians are. I think everyone has dark sides. I think everyone is messed up horribly, and that comedians just have a talent. They have just, you know,
we're doing something with it.
To take it and
Jerry Seinfeld. I like the way he said that. You know, he says, you know, he was talking with Gary Shandling, and Gary Shandling was saying, "Don't you think we come from a place where we need this attention? We need this. That's why we get on stage. That's why." And then Jerry Seinfeld says, "Yeah, or we could have talent. That could be that." And I agree. I think that comedians are as
but Jerry would never admit that he has a dark side.
Right.
What's the deal with the dark side?
That I don't have.
That I don't have.
But I think that I think everyone has dark sides, and I think that's why people connect with those kind of stories. And I just think, again, that comedians have talent to be able to, like, make light of them.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
But is it hard for people to...
And people with worse, you know, if everything's hunky-dory in your life, what is that? Happy families are all happy in the same way. It's unhappy families are all unhappy uniquely. Yeah. I don't know if I'm butchering that quote, but so that's why you don't need comedy if everything's hunky-dory in your life. That's why I say, you know, conservatives don't do comedy. They're the reason we need comedy in the first fucking place, right? So that I think that everybody's messed up, and don't take that.
It is interesting how there are not really. Who are the conservative comics? When Dennis Miller went conservative, he lost his way.
Well, you can't be.
But he got a lot of money out of Bill O'Reilly.
You can't. But comedy is supposed to punch upward.
Right. Exactly.
It's supposed to, and when it goes downward, it's called bullying.
Right.
And so now Dennis Miller is a bully.
Right.
He's not actually a comedian. He's not using comedy in the service of the underdog. He's using comedy in the service of the bully, and that's why he's not a comedian.
Not funny.
He's as Andy Kindler says, Dennis Miller, a retired comedian. Yeah. Even he would be able to see.
Right.
So,
by the way, I apologize for implying that Jerry Seinfeld may have had may have a dark side.
No.
It's none of my business.
No, you
None of my
acknowledge that
business.
Jimmy and you and me may.
Oh God! I mean, I have such a dark side.
Yeah.
I was at my friend's house the other day, and he lives on one of the canyons, and I said, you know what's great about your house? If you want to commit suicide, you just walk out and try to cross the street. That's how I look at things.
Well, there you go. We usually don't end on suicide, but I feel like that was a pretty.
I always end on suicide.
A pretty solid ending. I want to thank Jimmy Dore and Cathy Ladman. Oh, by the way, our sponsor is Coupaw.com. There is a link right down below. You can get up to 75% off pet treats and toys. These are both dog owners.
Yes.
Oh my
right
God!
here.
I'll do anything for my dog.
They've got cat stuff too. You can use code RR for 20% off your next order on top of that. And follow these guys on Twitter. That's right down below as well. And subscribe. I've given them a lot of instructions.
It's a lot. You know, they're exhausted. They're not going to do anything.
All right, just shut it off.